Hello, Global 3. This is Mr. Lawler, and I'm going to preview tomorrow's lesson, the lesson for Wednesday, September 30th. And we're going to be talking about the revolutions in Latin America. So, you heard yesterday through the lesson, we talked about the Haitian Revolution and how the French Revolution and ideas of the Enlightenment influenced that. Well, in the rest of Latin America, uh, which was at the time majority Spanish. The Spanish had colonized Latin America. We have similar revolutions taking place, and we're specifically going to be looking at the revolution in Venezuela, led by Simón Bolívar. So I'm going to preview the lesson for you guys, and you can follow along. So the aim is, to what extent did the Enlightenment influence the revolutions in Venezuela? So, the Enlightenment and the French Revolution had, global implications. Just as we heard, the French, the Third Estate was tired of living under the First and Second Estate and tired of being oppressed. They eventually revolted, and it was a bloody revolution. And it kind of had some negative aspects of it too, right? But we saw what happened when there was oppression against the lower class in France. And these ideas of freedom and the social contract, they eventually made their way to Latin America. The question is, how far did they go? So they do now, it's a really simple analysis. You're going to look at the map, and we're going to try to figure out which country controlled most of Latin America, which country controlled Haiti, and which country controlled Brazil. All right, so just so that we can understand which European powers colonized Latin America. Okay, then we're going to take some guided notes using Nearpod. And this pyramid over here is basically the social hierarchy that existed in most of Latin America in the colonial period. A hierarchy just means like levels, right? So if you think of a hierarchy in the Middle Ages, you'd have the king, right? Then the nobles, and then you'd have like the peasants or the serfs, right? So here on the top, we have the peninsulares, then we have Creoles, mestizos or mulattos, and then African and natives at the bottom of this social hierarchy. So you're going to click on this link, and then we're going to take notes on each one of these social classes, okay? It's basically just like this, all right? And then we have a guided thinking question, which we're going to do together, which is, why do you think this social hierarchy developed? Okay, and so when we talk about these, you guys will be able to come up with your own opinion on why you think this developed in Latin America. All right, then our independent practice. This is pretty cool. His name is Simón Bolívar, and he essentially led the revolution in Venezuela. We heard about yesterday Toussaint Louverture, who led the revolution in Haiti. This guy led the revolution in Latin America, and he was technically a Creole, meaning he was a European ancestry, but he was born in Venezuela. And during the war, he wrote a letter, and the letter is called Letter from Jamaica, La Carta de Jamaica, right? The letter from Jamaica. And in this letter, it's a very long letter, but we're just going to be reading part of it. And we're going to see some of the reasons, or see if we can find some of the reasons as why he led this revolution in Venezuela to get rid of the Spanish, okay? So it's basically these two paragraphs right here that we took from the letter. And as you go through it, you're going to be highlighting parts where you see, oh, like this is evidence of why Venezuela wanted independence. Okay, so you're going to highlight that. as you go along. And then, as Ms. Hoey has shown you guys before, we're going to be using that Jamboard, and I want us to post the parts of the letter that we highlighted, and we're going to go through it and see what evidence you guys came up with in terms of why Venezuela wanted independence. Last, we're going to answer the aim. Come back to the start. To what extent the Enlightenment and French Revolution influenced the revolution in Venezuela? And so, what's important to note is, unfortunately, we don't have time to talk about all of the countries in Latin America who got their independence, but we're going to be looking at Venezuela as a microcosm or as a snapshot of other revolutions and movements to overthrow Spanish rule. All right, so that's going to be the lesson. It's interesting, and it's like the Haitian Revolution. It should be more talked about and more taught, but unfortunately, it's not. So anyway, we'll get to explore this tomorrow. See you then.